In this episode of Mighty Car Mods, we continue turbocharging the MX5. Welcome to another MX5 video from Mighty Car Mods. It feels like that, doesn't it?
In case you hadn't had enough. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, oh man, it's a bit heavy on the MX5s. But then I thought, actually, my MX5 was years ago.
That was like a legit mistake. Just because you and Turbo MX5s are still woo in my dreams.
Yeah. Oh look, Turbo MX5s, they're cool. They should have had turbos from the factory. We're just fixing Mazda's mistakes.
Are we?
Yeah.
That's a big call. I'm going to leave that one there. Now, of course, if you want to get into like a detailed thing of how to turbocharge your MX5, check out our video called How to Turbo, where we actually go through bit by bit how to turbocharge an MX5. There is a lot to it, and as such, this video is not about teaching you how to turbocharge your car. This, of course, is our series on turbocharging versus supercharging. We've also done how to supercharge your car using a classic Mini that runs on ethanol, E85, awesome. So if you want detailed info on how to supercharge your car or how to turbocharge your car, check out those videos. But for today, we're actually putting the snail onto the beast.
We got a bit more, yeah, we've made a bit more progress. This thing's pretty much ready to bolt on now. Turbo's been attached to the manifold. That's all looking real neat. And that is, you'll notice, a low mount setup. So in my MX5, it went that way, like flipped. Which is great for some reasons and not for others. This is low mount, which is awesome for getting the dump in because the dump doesn't have to come all the way up and then
it just goes out and straight down, right? Like literally 90.
It's a bit more tricky getting air into it because it's underneath and water lines and oil lines, but that's pretty much where it's at now. So this is just going to slide straight on, and then it's now about getting oil into it, oil out of it, drilling the sump, which you saw us do on the old car as well, coolant in and out, and then some front mount pipes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's get to it. All right, insertion shot.
Insertion.
Look at this, it just fits, doesn't it?
Fits so well, man. Look at that. Bam, bolt on.
Look at that.
And so now we just
oh my God, that's unreal.
Isn't it? It looks so cool. And so
look
now we
this,
just
the wastegate, nice clearance here.
We put a nut on there.
Look at that.
We put a nut on there just to sort of hold it in place. And now we can start building front mount pipes and getting all the hoses and everything in the right spot. This will probably at some point come off again to double check that everything's tight. I've been scuba diving.
Oh no, I don't even know what you're about to say.
Okay, forget I even said it. I came up too fast.
Oh my God, okay, yeah.
But I've got them.
You've got...
Anyway, these are awesome. T304.
He's got the bends.
So 304 grade stainless.
Far out.
Which is thin wall, so 1.6 mil, really easy to weld. You can just fusion weld that together with a TIG like we did many a time before. And that just, we're going to use those bends to make a front mount pipe, so we're going to go 2-inch off
It's a 3D jigsaw.
It is. This bit's really fun.
That's awesome.
This bit's really fun.
It's normally really difficult because we don't have Radiohead.
Because they have...
An album called The Bends?
They have a song called The Bends?
I don't know.
Okay.
Some Radiohead fan will tell us we're idiots and then tell us all about it because they Wikipedia'd it. All right.
So that's 2-inch. So 2-inch is the hot side, so that comes off the turbo. The turbo outlet's 2-inch, so we're going to go 2-inch all the way to the front mount.
Yep.
And then off the other side of the front mount, we're going to go 2.5.
Yep.
And then back up into the intake. So we're going to use some of these bends, and I've got a few straight bits as well, like that. And we're going to jigsaw all that together.
Let's grab some bits, Martin.
Make some front
and
marks.
make a thing.
This bit's awesome. Look at that. It'll go, and it's nice and low, so it stays low, so there's room for filters and stuff.
Yeah, we'll see what to do on the other side.
Yeah. You can also tack them. You could tack weld them now, but taping is kind of cool just to make sure it's actually going to fit. And then a 90 straight out. About there?
Yep.
Don't know how well that's going to hold, but that works, doesn't it?
That's awesome.
And put it down as low as it'll go. You don't want the silicone
bouncing around.
Yeah, you don't want the silicone rubbing. We'll probably put some rubber around that hole to sort of insulate it so it doesn't rub too much. That's rad.
That's great, man.
Yeah, fits good, huh?
We chose to go custom with this turbo setup because the kits we looked at either required us to cut the body of the car or use what we considered an inappropriately sized turbo. If you customise one part of the kit, you can end up chasing that change the whole way through the install. It can also end up cheaper to buy the components separately, but not always. If you have the tools to fabricate parts like front mount pipes, you can often save money and make things fit your actual car perfectly.
This is where all the fittings are going on the turbo. Now normally, this is an S15 replacement turbo, so all the Nissan stuff will just bolt straight up to it.
Oh, so good.
I know. This would fit your 180.
Yeah, mad.
Except you wouldn't bother, you'd put a bigger turbo on it. This is cool because that's our oil drain. So we've got an adapter from GCD that makes it to fit this, and then we use an Aeroflow little adapter dick thing there, and then we're going to screw this adapter thing onto there, and then we're going to put braided hose, Teflon braided hose onto there, and that ends up being our oil drain that sends down to the bottom of the car. And
that's awesome.
The sump, which is the hardest bit, I think, of any turbo conversion, especially when the motor's still in the car.
Yep.
I've also got our
and that is,
lines.
Martin, considering this is about turbochargers versus superchargers, that's probably the time to mention that you don't have to do that when you're supercharging, because it's internally lubricating itself.
Exactly. And this is all the stuff you don't have to do with a supercharger. And this is, I have to say, like really challenging and pushing the limits of what I know how to do. So this is our oil feed line, and this is all custom made stuff too, because we didn't get a kit for this car, unfortunately. A kit probably would have had the exact right length of stuff, but we're customizing all of it. So
And it would have come with the butt plug, the bung plug and everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah, realistically. So that's basically the feed hose. So I'm going to leave that a length on there. That's the drain hose. I'm going to make up the bottom of that bit, and then we've got to deal with our water hoses as well. Try and make it all fit. Find places for the hoses to route in and around the engine bay to go to their respective sources and returns. I've also got these little things, which are oil restrictors. Some turbos, not all, come with them built in, and that restricts the oil pressure right down so that you don't overload the turbo with oil.
Okay.
Because if that happens, and I did have it happen on some older cars of mine, you end up just with a smoke show out the exhaust, because it's leaking through, it's blowing out through the seal and then burning up in this back housing.
Everyone's like, hey, why is your MX5 tuned by Volkswagen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that was a smoky reference.
No, I like it.
The locomotive meme? Don't worry. Yeah,
so
we're good.
That's pretty much where we're up to. This is all a bit, I would say tedious, but I would also say it's probably the hardest bit of this swap. If you've never done it before and you're not a mechanical stig, a turbo auto, or a dose fader, this stuff is a little bit challenging, but it's how you learn. You've got to jump in and have a go.
Man, you've got to be friends with Herbie Hancock.
Watermelon Man?
Yeah.
Cantaloupe Island?
Yeah, jazz dude.
Oh,
just
jazz.
freestyling like a boss.
Mechanical jazz
He's not reading no music, man. He's just like, he's hitting what has to be hit in the right place.
So
and making things go shabamo.
So true.
Turbos need oil and water so they don't go shabamo. Custom oil and water lines can be made at home using matching line and fitting kits, or a local hose fitting shop will be able to make them to your specifications if you'd rather do that. Most good turbo shops will sell matching fitting kits that will have the required washers and bolts to make sure they don't leak. Next up, we've got to drill the sump.
Meanwhile, I'm going to try and focus with my nose on the camera. How are you feeling, Martin?
Nervous?
We're minimising our use of silicone joiners so there are less potential places for leaks. We're also mirroring the sizing of the supercharger kit piping wherever possible. With the pipes tacked and checked for fitment, we can now fusion weld them together and install them into the car. All that's left to do is to attach our water feed line and oil drain and get it in the engine bay.
We have now officially broken the back of this project. The turbo is in. All that's left to do is to run some water lines to it, put in all our front mount piping in, clamp it all down, put a dump pipe on it, and then see if it starts.
The exhaust manifold nuts are tightened down and then the dump can go in.
Here you go, Martin. You are doing a smashing job, my man.
The final piece.
Everybody, the Burgertron, Martin Mulholland. Look at him go.
The final piece.
In his element.
Hey, making all these front mount pipes and everything was really fun. Intake bits, air cleaners, front mount pipes, welding stuff. The hoses were not fun. Doing the drain and the supply, that was really tricky. I'm sure it gets easier the millionth time you've done it, a la dose faded turbo mechanical stig style thing. But I'm having a lot of fun. This is our mad dump pipe, pre-made by our mate Dan. And this is ready to go on, which is awesome. The turbo's got studs in it. Got to throw a gasket on it, which I have here. Gasket goes on there somewhere.
Oh, dude, this is going to be good.
And this dump pipe is not married.
That's divorced, Martin.
That's right. So
and they didn't even get to split half the doodle, did they?
I'm going to get up under there and I'm going to
get up in it.
And we'll be done.
We're topping up our power steering and filling the engine with fresh oil, ready for our first startup.
What's going on?
Well, we're fitting a Haltech to the MX5.
Awesome. That looks like a plug-in.
It is. So this is a Haltech prototype MX5 plug-in, and they've left all the sheathing off the unit for us, so we can, add any wires or stuff that we need. So we've just wired the CAN bus to run the widebands, and we've run in a couple of wires to do the boost control solenoid.
So it's got a factory ECU in it now because it was NA.
That's right.
Last time.
Yeah. So that's the factory ECU. I'll just leave it there temporarily.
Oh, cool. Literally straight plug-in.
Yeah.
I don't think we've actually ever done it this way.
And that's it. There's your Haltech installed.
Done, like as in turn the key and it'll power on.
Yeah.
Almost time to start the car. I'm just going to turn the injectors off completely so we can crank it a couple of times. It gets the oil all through the motor, back through those new turbo lines. We can check for leaks. Fingers crossed nothing's leaking. Once we've done that, we tell if it's got bigger injectors in it. It should idle. It might be a bit cranky when it's cold, but it should idle. And at that point, we can make sure there's water getting through it, power steering fluid getting through it, and that generally we haven't broken anything. All right, moment of truth. Come on, car. That's all, Sam.
As mad as it would be to drive around in something that sounds like a Group A rally car, some exhaust work will be required. So we're heading out to see the boys at Castle Hill Performance to help us tidy things up.
Looks pretty good, man.
Thanks, it's my first one. Well, it's not my first Turbo MX5, it's the first time I've turboed it start to finish.
Yeah.
I didn't make the manifold or the dump, but we pretty much made everything else.
That looks really good.
Thanks, dude.
You did all the cool pipes?
Everything.
While it is possible to run a turbo setup on a factory exhaust, it will be a restriction which can limit power. We're matching our supercharged car's exhaust configuration and sizing where possible. Our supercharged car has extractors and a high flow cat. The exhaust gases will behave differently on a turbo car, being that the turbine is powered by them. This car already has an aftermarket stainless steel rear muffler, so we're going to make the front section match the dump and go to the rear of the car. A full stainless system will cost more than a mild steel one, but it's less prone to corrosion. We've TIG welded ours much the same as we've done the front mount piping. Our wideband O2 sensor is positioned at the end of the dump pipe, which means the install on this car is now complete.
So at this point, we have our two MX5s, of course. We've got our black MX5 that is supercharged, and we've got our super red that is turbocharged. Now, Marty, it's been a bit of a different process getting them each to a stage that there's actual boost.
Exactly, and essentially you are just adding more air into the engine. The car itself doesn't know the difference. The Haltech doesn't really care either. It just sees boost.
Yeah.
So we're just literally the mechanical process of forcing that air into the engine is the only difference, but wildly different processes to do it.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look because it's probably easy to show. Do you want to crack the bonnet on that?
Yep.
We'll just do a bit of a comparison. So of course in here is the turbocharged MX5 or Miata. Now there's a bit of a time consideration, and we spoke about this at the very beginning, that supercharging the car, unless you're supercharging a classic Mini with stuff that doesn't exactly fit right, supercharging a car, how long was this process to actually get this supercharged all bolted together?
I think your average Joe with the right tools can do this in a day.
Okay.
Yep.
Whereas, so we're comparing a day with what ended up being a few weeks. So we obviously don't have the option of doing this full time, so we're just working on this a couple of days. But that was a couple of days a week over a few weeks. So
that's right.
We did speak about that at the start, because obviously here we're kind of drilling sumps and there's custom piping and all sorts of stuff like that. Whereas over here we're bolting stuff on.
And in fairness, this is a kit, so someone has done the R&D. If you were supercharging that from scratch with that kind of supercharger, you'd have to go through the same thing, make front mount pipes, all that kind of thing. But of what was available to us at the time, this is the kit. This is more customized. So, but essentially, even the front mount piping is pretty much the same size.
Yeah.
And the associated wiring and everything is the same. As we said, injectors is the same, ECUs is the same, all that is the same. And looking at it, It's got some pipes, it's got a front mount, it's got some pipes, it's got a front mount, there's a filter, they're roughly the same size.
Yep.
It's just the fact there's a big supercharger sitting there and that's got a low mount turbo.
And what's interesting about that packaging-wise is that this space actually looks perfectly set up to adding boost to your car. You know, I mean, all the pipes, there was no problem getting them through. We weren't like cutting through battery trays and stuff like you are with a Sylvia. It all went in there really nicely. And in a way, other than the exposed filters, it could almost be stock, you know, particularly with a low mount turbo.
Yeah, a low mount turbo. If you put an exhaust shield on it, painted your pipes black, put an airbox on it, the intercooler's already black.
Yeah.
It would just disappear, which is pretty cool if you're going for that whole stealthy look.
Yeah, which is something that you don't get as much over here because there is quite obviously something that is bolted on there. And these are concerns for Australia because obviously there's pretty serious laws here relating to defects and mods and things. And for some people, or even people that just want a stealthy track car, those things are a concern. So Marty, we've got the cars. We've got two cars that are exactly the same. One is turbocharged, one is supercharged. What is going to happen next?
Now I think it's a range of challenges / tests.
Okay.
To try and see from lots of different perspectives, you know, timing and all that kind of stuff, and just also the feeling of driving
Just
it.
drivability,
I'm so interested to see, being that they should feel pretty much the same to drive. And I have driven both these cars when they were naturally aspirated.
Yeah.
And they do feel like the same car, essentially. So it'll be very interesting to see how that power makes a difference and how that power comes on.
Yeah, well, they're going to have, of course, the exact same tyres. They're going to have Bridgestone Potenza RE003s, which we run on heaps of our cars. They're going to have the same specs of wheels.
That's right.
As well.
MCA coilovers, even down to the same brake pads.
And then, of course, Haltech's running both of them. Service the same, both running Castrol Edge. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
We'll get in these cars, we'll give them a good thrash, and we'll see how we go. And then so we'll report them both actual stats of like looking at cars on dynos and looking at things like that versus actually driving them and then swapping and seeing how it feels.
So both these cars start and run, both have Haltech 750s on them, and both have the same base map. So that means there's no mapping really for boost. There's no timing or boost in it to make big power yet, but they're drivable. But the next time we see them at the dyno, we'll be actually putting some numbers into them and seeing what they can do.
That's awesome. Super exciting, man. Can't wait. And now the process is done, now that they're there, what's your money on?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if I had to give just from now an overall opinion, that was so easy and enjoyable to do.
Yeah.
That was much more challenging. There is something about turbo cars and just knowing that you're using exhaust and all this kind of thing. I think I'm slightly biased towards turbo.
Yeah.
But as far as ease of use and your average Joe just bolting on a thing and having a lot of fun with it, this is really showing.
I mean, I think, for my opinion, owning a supercharged car, my feeling is going to win at the dyno.
Yeah.
Maybe at the track. I think that's going to win just drivability. Just
on
straight
the
up get in, put it into gear and put the foot down. I think that's going to feel exciting.
Yep.
There's obviously a certain something about turbo surge. You know, you put your foot down and it builds and it builds and it builds. But what'll be interesting to see them, particularly in a drag race, and interesting to see kind of times, is I think the supercharged one, obviously, while we're waiting for some boost lag, it's going to get the jump. And so that's, for a lot of people, that's where the excitement is, that kind of 0 to 60 moment, you know. So it's going to be cool, man. So there's lots of cool stuff happening.
This has been done in spreadsheets and in internet forums and since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But to have them so close together and actually see it in action, I'm really interested to see how it goes. I wouldn't put money on either because I got no idea, but I think it's going to be really interesting.
Next time on Mighty Car Mods.